Hey guys, what's up? How's lockdown been treating y'all? I desperately need a haircut and it's actually beginning to get on my nerves. But besides that, I'm hunky-dory. My name is Erin and this is my channel where I talk a load of crap about whatever the crap I want to. This week was World Book Day. Depending on when I get this edited, I'll have this video out either on World Book Day or the day after World Book Day. If any of you are from the UK and remember the visits to your school of the Scholastic Library, then you know why World Book Day was just peak school time. Sadly, I'm too old for the Scholastic Library now, and I don't even know if they even still visit the schools anymore, but I suppose it doesn't matter because no one's in school at the minute. But it's rather sad to know that a lot of kids won't get that high of excitement from getting to go and see the library set up in the hall, but I suppose that's life. Considering it's the week of World Book Day, I thought that I would discuss some of the reading that I've been doing recently, particularly focusing on two different books that I read in the past month or so. Those books are Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston and Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. So what connects these books and why would I want to talk about these two in particular? Well, these two books are or were highly anticipated LGBT novels that people were really looking forward to. Red, White and Royal Blue is a rom-com story about the first son of the United States falling in love with the Prince of Wales, while Cemetery Boys is a fantasy adventure about a trans man called Yadriel and his path to proving himself and his ability to his family. As I say, these two books were extremely highly anticipated, mainly because of their LGBT themes, and that is because LGBT novels of any kind are very exciting for us at the LGBT community to sort of see, because it's only now coming into prominence to have LGBT novels as well talked about and publicised the way they are now. What I want to talk about is how I've seen more excitement now that the books have come out for Red, White and Royal Blue than I have for Cemetery Boys. And that bothers me because I actually think that the latter was a lot better in terms of, well, everything. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed both books immensely, but there was a lot more problems I found with Red, White and Royal Blue than I did with Cemetery Boys, and I'll explain that now. Red, White and Royal Blue couldn't decide whether it wanted to be in a fictional world or kind of rooted in reality. A lot of the main characters, like the first son of the United States and his family and the Prince of Wales and the royalty, or the current present royalty in the story, they were all fictional, but then the royal family's ancestry was real, like Henry VIII and all them, like prominent figures. Henry VIII is the only one that comes to mind for me. And the first son of the United States family came after the Obamas. So it's kind of like, is this supposed to be fictional or is it supposed to be rooted in the real world? Because I've always had a problem with real names being brought up in a story that's supposed to be fictional. It kind of takes me out of it. It's like when they mentioned Donald Trump in Doctor Who. I can't remember which episode it was. I think it was Arachnids in the UK, but they brought up Donald Trump and it just kind of took me like straight out of it, because bringing up like real world figures kind of takes you out of the fantasy of it. And they used a real talk show in Red, White and Royal Blue. They used the talk show This Morning when they were in the UK, but the hosts were fictional, they weren't real, so why didn't you just make up a talk show then? I also found the story very disingenuous because, well, it's the first son of the United States and the Prince of Wales having an affair, and no one finds out for like half a year. Like, they don't get caught once, except for, but conveniently, by people who don't care and won't expose them to the public. And then once they are exposed, the Queen gets pretty much blackmailed into being okay with it and allowing them to go and do their own thing, and that is just not what would happen, especially considering what the media and the royal family are doing right now to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It just made me think even more on how Red, White and Royal Blue's conflict, which was only for like 100 pages or so, it was terribly pathetic conflict. Like, it was solved like that, And considering the fact that it involved the royal family and the first family, you would have thought that it would have been a lot more like intense. The story was obviously for people who are fans of fluffy rom-coms that aren't really that realistic, which is fine. Everyone's into their own genres. It just seems that it's not what I'm into. Like, these two characters, don't get me wrong, this book is not for young adults. It is for mature audiences only. There's a lot of sex scenes in it. And that is another problem I had, because these two characters, Alex, who's the first son of the United States, and Henry, who is the Prince of Wales, all they do is have sex with each other. They have sex with each other and they email each other, and then they fall in love. They don't have a date, they don't meet up and have like a little private, like cute little date thing. They just meet up and have sex with each other, and then they fall in love. And it's like, develop feelings for each other? Sure, I'd buy that. Wanting to explore something more than just a sexual relationship? Yeah, I'd buy that too. Falling in love just when you're meeting up to have sex with each other? Enough to throw away your status as a royal family member? No. No, doesn't make sense. Not to mention, this book unironically uses the term mansplain, which is just so cringy. It's terrible. I did enjoy Red, White and Royal Blue though. I enjoyed the characters and their interactions. I enjoyed a lot of the plot points and the theming. It was very funny. There were times when I chuckled and laughed out loud. It's just, it obviously wasn't my kind of thing, and the fact that this book I've seen getting more love and attention over a book like Cemetery Boys, which I'm going to talk about now in a minute, it just bothers me, because I do think Cemetery Boys is the stronger novel, and I think maybe because there isn't as much of a sex appeal than there is for Red, White and Royal Blue, and that's maybe why it hasn't. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places, I will admit that. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places. Maybe it's been just as highly praised as Red, White and Royal Blue, but I haven't seen anything. But I do think the lack of sex appeal that's in Red, White and Royal Blue is maybe why Cemetery Boys didn't reach the same kind of height of popularity. But the reason that I believe Cemetery Boys is a stronger novel is because it explores so much. It is written by Aidan Thomas, and they are trans, and their main character, Yadriel, is trans, and I found it very enlightening to read from the perspective of a trans character written by a trans author, because as a cis person, my understanding of what a trans person goes through is always going to be surface level. I'm never going to be able to have a full deep understanding of what they go through. I can try to understand, which I do every day. I try to understand as hard as I can, but I will never fully know, because I can't. Because I'm cis, I'll never really fully know what it's like to go through what trans people do. But reading from the perspective of a trans author writing a trans character, it gives an insight to people like me to what they go through and their struggles and just things that they endure every day as just a normal part of their life because they're trans. And I just found that very interesting and, as I say, enlightening, and immediately from the get-go that had me interested in this book. They celebrate the Day of the Dead in this story because Yadriel is from a Latin family, and it's basically on the lead up to the Day of the Dead. The Day of the Dead is after Halloween. Well, it starts after Halloween. It showed you ways that they prepare for the holiday, the decorations that they do, the little rituals that they go through, and while maybe not all of it is completely accurate, all of it is kind of rooted in fact. I just found it a very interesting learning experience, just watching this character kind of go through the motions of his traditions with his family leading up to what is probably one of the bigger holidays for his culture. And considering the fact that my understanding of the Day of the Dead stretched as far as the Lizzie McGuire episode with it featured, I found it very interesting to learn a bit more about it. But the plot of the Cemetery Boys seemed a lot more multifaceted and deeper than Red, White and Royal Blue was, because, well, I was basically able to sum up Red, White and Royal Blue just by saying the first son of the United States has an affair with the Prince of Wales, because that is what the book is, while also trying to pursue a political career of his own. But that plot point is so minuscule compared to everything else that's going on. But with Cemetery Boys, there's such a deeper kind of plot, and it's a lot more detailed that I can only explain it really, really briefly without like spoiling anything. But basically, Yadriel summons a ghost to prove to his family that he can be a... I'm going to put the word here because I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Which is the job of the males in the family, but because he's trans, they weren't going to let him do it. But it involves sending spirits to the afterlife. So he summons a spirit called Julian, but Julian won't allow himself to be welcomed into the afterlife until they solve his murder. So that's basically what the plot of the book is. They're trying to solve this murder so that Yadriel can pass Julian on to the afterlife, and he can prove to his family that he is a boy and he is capable of doing the job that the males in his family do. What I will say is that I enjoyed Red, White and Royal Blue a lot more in terms of reading than I did Cemetery Boys, which I'm going to try and explain. I flew through Red, White and Royal Blue a lot faster than I did Cemetery Boys. I was a lot more comfortable just closing the book on Cemetery Boys and leaving it there for days, whereas I finished Red, White and Royal Blue a lot faster. But that could be because the story was a lot more easy to take in and understand, which isn't bad. I can't keep reiterating enough. I did enjoy Red, White and Royal Blue. There was just a lot that bothered me. Like, it was supposed to be an enemies to lovers story, and yet they're like enemies for like 5 minutes. They're enemies for 5 minutes, and then they're friends for 5 minutes, and then they're fucking for the rest of the book. And like I say, no dates, no anything. And that just really bothered me. Maybe it was just a bit too smutty for my liking. One of the reasons that I liked Cemetery Boys was that the whole story wasn't revolved around the LGBT themes. And what I mean by this is that a lot of books identify as LGBT books to get like a... It feels like they're trying to get praise of some sort, like, oh, I include a gay character in my book, aren't I so great and inclusive, give me a pat on the back, aren't I fantastic? That's how a lot of them come off to me. But this Cemetery Boys had so much more going on. Yes, Yadriel was trans and Julian was gay, and there were bits and pieces in the story that were related to that, but there was also the mystery of who killed Julian, who killed Yadriel's cousin Miguel. There was like a whole string of murders going on, and it's a bit like a murder mystery as well, which I think, well, which I figured out it was quite predictable. I was able to figure out before the halfway point of the book what was going on, but it was still a lot, there was still a lot more going on for it. Like, it didn't feel like this was, there was LGBT characters involved just to get the sort of pat on the back, like when Doctor Who announced Bill Potts and then someone made a graphic saying Bill Potts, introducing Bill Potts as gay, which was just, don't include characters who are gay for brownie points. That's just, it's wrong. It's wrong. Red, White and Royal Blue was a lot more fun, I will say that. There was a lot more like rompiness going on. So if you enjoy kind of fluffy rom-com romp kind of thing, then it is probably the book for you. There is smut in it as well, so you have to be aware of that. And then Cemetery Boys is more for if you enjoy fantasy adventure. It is, there's a mystery going on. There's a lot more, well, to me, there's a lot more going on in it. But if you're more of a kind of young adult murder mystery fantasy adventure fan, then Cemetery Boys is probably for you. And if you're into fluffy rom-coms, then Red, White and Royal Blue is perfect for you. I rated both of these books above average. I rated Cemetery Boys 4 stars and Red, White and Royal Blue 3 stars, and my reviews can be found on Goodreads, but I pretty much say the exact same things that I'm saying here, but you can check out my Goodreads and follow me anyway, because I always post reviews there of the books that I'm reading. But I just wanted to talk about those two books in particular because I find it interesting how they were both highly anticipated LGBT books and how different they both were. And I actually think that's fantastic because that's what we need in media. We need more LGBT stories that aren't just about coming out, because that is a big theme in LGBT books, and there's no problem with that. That's great too, but it seems that a lot of it is just about coming out all the time. And to have a bit more variety and like a rom-com and a fantasy adventure, and to be able to explore these different like avenues with LGBT characters without it, sounds insane, but without that being all it's about. I think that we're finally heading in the right direction in terms of LGBT literature, because for a long time it was kind of, and by a long time I mean like 10 years ago, where we've been going on a steady path towards being better for a long time now. But I just love that there's more variety and you can explore more avenues in the LGBT genre. There's murder mysteries, there's fantasy adventures, there's rom-coms, there's fluffiness, there's romps. And it's not just all about coming out, because I think a lot of people immediately identify and connect coming out as the main facet of story for LGBT people. Which again, I cannot emphasize enough, is fine. But it's nice to finally have a bit more variety than just that. Because I came out once. You know, I came out, well, we came out a couple of times to different people, but my coming out story was once, and sometimes you don't want to relive it. Like, sometimes you're just like, no, I'm good. I'd rather read a fantasy adventure with ghosts and spirits in the afterlife, or I would rather read a rom-com where the Prince of Wales and the First Son of the United States are having an affair with each other. So that's it for this week. You can read my reviews of Red, White and Royal Blue and Cemetery Boys on my Goodreads page, which I will link down below, along with my other socials. Follow if you want. Don't follow if you don't want. I don't want you there if you don't want to be there. Check out my book, which the link will also be included down below. Again, do it if you want. I don't want you there if you don't want to be there. Happy World Book Day, whether I upload this on World Book Day or the day after World Book Day, we'll see. And I'll see you next time, guys. And remember, read. Reading is the most fulfilling experience, and it's like a movie in your head, and you can just get so much out of it. And even an audiobook is great. Just read. Happy World Book Day.